Welcome everyone, Costine here with a discussion about Yuan Bo, the Jade Dragon of Grand Cathay, the only legendary lord of Grand Cathay who actually has a good campaign outside of Cathay itself. For the simple reason that he can colonize in the jungle without any kind of penalties. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities that other Cathayan legendary lords don't have. So it means all of Lustria is available to you, it means the entirety of the Southlands is available to you. Basically, you've got a huge amount of territory in this campaign to actually colonize. And that is actually very rare when you're thinking about Cathay. It's actually fairly exceptional to think about that from a Cathayan perspective. Because Yao Ming and Miao Ying, while they're certainly good enough legendary lords in their own right, in fact, there's nothing really wrong with them, they're not quite as powerful as Yuan Bo because he is a paid DLC legendary lord, and yes, pay to win does factor in to a certain extent. But really, the thing about Yuan Bo is just the climate situation. You can resolve this for Xiao Ming and Miao Ying if you're using a climate mod, but inherently Yuan Bo does have that climate benefit in his campaign. Though I also have to say that he does have a pretty shitty start for a Cathayan campaign. His benefits in a campaign are more long-term as opposed to a short-term benefit that you might see in some other campaigns. Because he starts over here with the provincial capital with a ruined port that's going to cost you a good amount of money. He starts with a floating pyramid that's going to be ruined. So he's actually going to be using quite a lot of Jade Warriors and Peasant Archers potentially in his campaign. And he also has a dual start at the same time. Like if he started with just Lustria, that would be one thing. But he also starts with Shangwu, which starts also as a tier 1 settlement with nothing in it. And in a Cathayan campaign, it is best to bother with Cathay, not from the perspective of confederating other legendary lords, from the perspective of territory itself being very lucrative, but just a lot of power that can be had in a Cathayan campaign in Cathay. So you can't really ignore Cathay itself. That would be a rather significant mistake to actually make during the course of a campaign. So you have a dual start. It's not exactly the best dual start in the game, but you do have significant amounts of power as both Cathay and as Yuan Bo. Now, one of the things I will point out over here, one of the decisions you're actually going to have to make early on in the campaign is where do you want to focus on more? Do you want to focus on Cathay more? Do you want to focus on Lustria more? Because there's pros and cons of both approaches, though I would generally say that focusing on Cathay more is generally more lucrative. Now, faction effects-wise, you get vision from trade agreements, which, by the way, they removed from the High Elves with Shadows of Chains. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe just they wanted to make this more viable. You do get research rate. So when I say this campaign is really built around the idea of building a massive empire, like when you look at the research rate benefit, the trade agreement benefit, the hero capacity of astromancers, you really understand why. Like Xiao Ming is better in the short term, Yuan Bo is significantly better in the long term. But one of the things you do get is matters of state. So you've got steel actions, stone actions. I'm not going to cover all of them. The important dilemma you're going to have early on is where are you going to use levy the provinces and where you're going to use rush construction. Now, typically what I do is use the initial rush construction, the one you start with, on floating pyramid to build up the settlement. It would be great if it started already built up, right? If you had the barracks over here, that would be fantastic. I'll talk about how you deal with the initial greenskin armies in just a second. But I use that there, and I use the provinces over here to get a bunch of peasant archers, which I then promptly disband once I'm done with them. But I'm getting those peasant archers while I'm building these the Jade Warrior barracks. I'm getting a bunch of them for global recruitment, local recruitment, rush, and levying the provinces, so I can get a bunch of them to take the Baleful Hills on turn 2. And then move on the Bridge of Heaven, Shilong, all of that kind of stuff very, very quickly. Like this is turn 6 of the campaign. Then you can disband those archers. They're not going to be suited for the purpose you need them for. I mean, you could potentially use them, though using peasant archers against Snitch, which is the purpose of that particular army, may be just setting yourself up to disaster. I'd probably recommend disbanding them. But then you're going to have to make the decision. Where are you going to use these effects later on? And from my perspective, I would say, like, there's a pro and con with the second rush construction in using it in either Lustria or in Cathay. If you use it in Cathay, you'll get, basically, regardless of where you're using it, you'll get Jade Warrior crossbowmen faster there. That's the principal benefit here. So using it, of course, in Cathay means that you're getting your provincial capital to a higher level, means you're getting this barracks up to a higher level very quickly. and you're setting yourself up for success. I'd also recommend getting a Yang building over here just for that extra recruitment. Like the only reason you would ever care about Yin and Yang is literally just for what I did there. Just to get yourself a couple of extra recruitment slots that you're going to be using for the sake of Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. And then once you make that, but similarly, you can use it over here to be able to deal with Mazdamundi easier, because dealing with Mazdamundi is going to require Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. You may get away with using Peasant Archers on Snitch, though keep in mind it's going to be a secondary army, and the best thing you can do against Snitch if you meet his army is actually have a strong enough army that you can auto-resolve it in the vanilla game. In Cathay, with Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Crossbowmen have a lot of armor, so they can do it. That's my strategy against Snitch. And even if you fight them manually, Jade Warrior Crossbowmen is significantly better than Peasant Archers. But that's one of the dilemmas. That is one of the dilemmas you will have to be dealing with during the course of this campaign. Or you can just get a bunch of Jade Warriors in one army and then recruit the second army, fill that with Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, send them in as reserve, because Snitch will not see you coming. Like, the key to victory in this campaign against Mazdamundi, against Snitch, like, you're dealing with two legendary lords on two different fronts from the very beginning of your campaign. You got to consider that. Like, you got to consider Mazdamundi as a threat. You got to consider the fact that Snitch is a threat. Well, Snitch is certainly a threat. And you want, like, this is the thing, you want to eliminate Snitch very quickly. By the way, first Caravan you should always send towards Karazakarak, because it's really fast, it is the fastest route, and it will grant you a good amount of money that you will certainly want to get access to. Like, over here in Lustria, I've chosen to... Okay, let's get the Yang building up and running. Over there in Lustria, I've chosen to get a bunch of Jade Warriors. Over here, I'm getting even more Jade Warriors. Right here, let's get that recruitment capacity over here, because we're going to get Jade Warrior Crossbowmen very, very shortly. And you do have the capability in a Cathayan campaign to maintain a huge amount of armies very quickly. Especially when you can get instant recruitment for a lot of those units, make sure you actually use that benefit. Now, you could argue, reasonably so, that, well, you don't have to find Mazdamundi, to which I reply, Mazdamundi is not necessarily the best ally you can have in a campaign, compared to, like, surprisingly, this may seem like a shock, but the Empire, Marcus Wolfhard, yes, he hates Lizardmen, but he is a reliable ally in your campaign, and crucially, because he's south of you, as where you want to expand, you can have like a kind of parallel expansion going on between you and him. One of the things you want to ensure that happens when you're allying the factions, you don't just have an ally for the sake of having like an ally. You want an ally that's actually going to help you in some way in your campaign, and that is the principal benefit that Marcus Wolfhard can give. He will build up significant strength in his campaign if you let him. Like the Empire, under AI control with all the cheats the AI has, the Empire can recruit a lot of armies. And that's one of the things, like, if anyone's ever invaded the late game Empire, not the early game Empire, I'm not talking about that fucking joke, I'm talking about late game Empire, if anyone's ever dealt with that in a particular campaign, they will know what I'm talking about exactly over here. So you do start getting a ton of units over here, and you start using these units during the course of a campaign against your opponents. There's also other things to take into consideration over here, like, declaring war on Greece's enemies to just get a bit of money, maybe getting a peace with those enemies right after those declarations of war, because, the caravans will go through that particular territory. Just that entire dynamic you might have to deal with over here. Now, I want to talk a bit about the initial situation. By the way, I'm not concerned about Yuan Bo not being able to win this particular battle. Autoresolve nonsense aside, it's like these guys start with 3 armies from the very beginning of their campaign, but they don't have any kind of like recruitment. These regions are ruined, so they can only recruit basic savage orcs. Well, at most, if you really need to, you can always recruit a bunch of damned archers if you want to. Like, get Jade Warriors to stop their charge, and just get a bunch of archers if you really are in need of that. Or, just Jade Warriors will win against Savage Orcs in a head-to-head confrontation. Remember that particular aspect. don't underestimate that benefit that you might have in a campaign over here as Cathay. But what about the initial armies of the Savagers? Because there's going to be one near the floating pyramid. There's going to be one near the isle over there. It's kind of an awkward situation. I kind of think like just starting with the pyramid under Savager control would actually be a better situation. Yeah, if you actually start with the barracks over here in the Isle of Crimson Skull, which you do not. If you're wondering why I'm buffing my archer benefit, is yeah, I'm going to recruit a lot of archers over here. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of all of these and yep, just move on to there. What you want to do, play on legendary. Like, actually, no, just set the battle difficulty to very hard. Auto-resolve this battle, and then move, then improve your movement skill on both Yuan Bo, so root marcher, and over here increase mobility. And the reason you want to do so is there's an army over here, a second army that starts just within range. And if you take enough damage from the initial battle, you might... This is one of the few situations where you actually want to take deliberate damage in a battle. That army is going to attack you. Well, guess what? Your army, your Zarring army with the Jade Lions, with the Green Longman Travelers, the Alchemist Yuan Bo will defeat that Greenskin army. And you want to do so to protect the floating pyramid so it doesn't get overwhelmed by Greenskins. So letting the Greenskins overwhelm him, it wouldn't necessarily be the biggest downside. And yes, this campaign, this campaign is quite absurd. Okay, so what about Snitch? Well, here's the thing you need to understand about Skaven. Just as the Skaven can ambush you, so you can ambush them. And the AI is pretty bad at dealing with any kind of ambushes. So what you want to do against Snitch in the course of a campaign is you want to ensure that that you are fighting him, you're defeating him in detail. If Snitch throws 4 full stacks against you, it doesn't matter what army you have, you can have a legendary lord there. Like, if he throws 4 full stacks of Skaven slaves, he's likely going to defeat you in a straight confrontation. The key to defeating Skaven is never, ever to allow them to concentrate force against you. So, you need to get the jump on him. You need to be aggressive in your fights. You need to be aggressive in your territory. One particular aspect that's really going to go your way is if you look at Sing Po over here, and I know how this campaign plays out. Like, the reason you want to rush Snitch, it's going to take him some time to get Kum Lan, and that's when you want to strike. So what you want to do here is, this is the reason you want to be very aggressive in this campaign. So what you want to do is take out Snitch's Sing Po, which is his starring settlement. You want to take that out because a lot of his economy and unit recruitment is actually tied to it. The building he starts with there allows him to recruit Night Runners. You eliminate that, you eliminate a lot of his economic potential. Or a lot of his military potential, rather. And that is the one thing you are going to want to use in this particular campaign. Like, there's so many things you want to use. And by the way, I recommend getting a combination of Celestial Generals and Magistrates. Magistrates because they can reduce the upkeep of your units. Celestial Generals simply because... over here, let's get that sorted out. Next turn. I'm not going to recruit anything this particular turn. No reason to. Just get Dragon Scales, Fletching Mentors. Yes, I know I'm running out of money. I know that's an issue. I will deal with it. Actually, I could deal with it right now if I really wanted to, but that's not really too much of a problem. Not too much of a hassle. Actually, I might just want to declare war on these guys so that I can get that. You might wonder why this is so important. Yeah, that. This is no joke. Like, confederating the Imperial Wardens is, like, easy. You just need to get vision with them. Like, you want to understand one of the benefits Miao Ying actually has in her campaign? She can do so easily. Now, in this case, they've lost one of the bastions, but it doesn't matter. Like, the bastions never rebel, and the factions, as long as you don't deliberately piss off Village, he is unlikely to declare war on you and get trading partners as well. Like, yeah, vision from trading agreements, removing that from High Elves, giving it to Cathay of all factions is such a troll from Creative Assembly, it's not even funny. Like, I'm not even joking on this. Like, it is crazy. And always keep in mind the declarations of war and how to use those declarations of war to maximize your output, because this is the key to an early game rush, if you will. And The reason you want an early game rush, it's like it's going to set you up in a stronger position early on in your campaign. It's going to give you a lot more territory. It's going to give you more armies. It's going to make you stronger. It might seem like cheesing, and to an extent it is. Actually, to a large extent it is. Let's not bullshit our way around this. It is cheesing, right? Not undeniably so. But it is the reason we do it, the reason you want to do it as a player comes down to this. If you don't do it, you're sending yourself up for a far more difficult campaign situation, or not necessarily difficult, more frustrating. Like, consider this: what happens if you don't push against Snitch and Cathay? What happens if you ignore the Cathay and Theater? Well, I'll tell you what happens. You're not gonna lose the Celestial Riverlands. Who the hell is gonna attack that Snitch? Lokir? Maybe in like 30 turns, but Xiao Ming and Miao Ying are certainly gonna deal with that. Certainly Xiao Ming is gonna be fighting that. What really makes it miserable to ignore Cathay and not rush like this is what exactly will happen. And I'll tell you what happens. What happens is inevitably that what happens in this kind of situation is that inevitably the most likely outcome of all of this is that Xiao Ming and Miao Ying are going to win. There are some situations where they don't, undeniably so. By the way, always keep the compass early on that. There are some situations early on in a campaign where they might not win, but vast majority of situations they will win. And that's the critical point. You know they're going to win. You know they're going to end up in a good position. So I'll tell you what the consequence of you not taking advantage of this will be. They will be much harder to confederate. The more territory a faction has, the more power they have, the harder they are to confederate. There's a reason why in this situation I'm not making a military alliance with either of them. And that reason is I want to make it easier to confederate with them. To confederate those factions. So over here, yeah, just more Jade Warriors. Actually, I'm going to get some regular Jade Warriors over here. I do still have that instant levy the provinces ability soon enough. And, well, this army can go deal with Snitch. I'm just building a second one just in case, right? And over here, yeah, I've put myself, like, I could go deal with... I could go harass Mazdamundi. I could use the instant... I could use levy the provinces over here. This is but this is the critical point about Yuan Bo. Like, he has this power in his campaign. By the way, I might recommend that one of the first things you do in this campaign is recruit a lord and send him instantly north. The reason you want to, in Cathay, the reason you might want to do so is just get that vision on Imperial Wardens. The reason you want to do so is you may want to confederate them before they lose the Great Bastion. You could secure our northern flank. You can secure your entire northern flank and not have to deal with going into the Castways, which is such a bloody pain in the neck. I don't believe it. But if you confederate them quickly enough, and maybe if you keep the territory that the Imperial Wardens hold there and you sell that to Zayton with the barracks, he might give you a non-aggression pact. Hell, you might even get the lovely, lovely situation where what might happen there is... okay, still not ready. Unfortunate. Rather unfortunate there. But such as it is. Okay, we got a bunch of money right here. And now we got... Well, look at these bastards. They've taken Kulan. You don't necessarily... Sometimes things do happen that you don't necessarily expect. It is better that the Celestial Loyalists took that settlement. A bit surprising. It almost never happens. But yeah, you can't always plan the perfect campaign because you never know how things are going to develop, right? You never have... this, like, the ideal outcome in a campaign. Over here, I might want to get those, or it's hard to say, really, sometimes. Like, what do you want to do? Okay, let's get more Jade Warriors, Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, just in case. And over here, we just wait. Like, I could get Peasant Archers. Sometimes it's best to make decisions, like, for the early game, but sometimes you make decisions in the early game. Like, this is what I'd recommend to people. Don't just make decisions in the early game simply because it benefits your early game. Make decisions in the early game that benefit your campaign. And that's one of the things I would strongly stress. That's the reason I don't recruit present archers, for instance. It's because it's never going to pay off in the long term. Unless you're using the Warband upgrade mod, which, yeah, I would firmly recommend you get that particular mod for this campaign. And especially send out another Caravan, which we've got thanks to our lovely military alliance over here. And usually you want to send it, the second Caravan right there, declare war on clan Verms. Keep your military fed through the sake of diplomacy. Okay, beyond matters of state, which are a significant benefit in your campaign, what else does Yuan Bo have on offer? Well, he's Judge Dredd. So he's got Judge, Jury, and Executioner. His melee skill line, I never bother with this magic skill line. It's really not worth it. Like, owl, like the magic skill, like, you're better off getting an Astromancer, and you have more Astromancers than anyone else. You get Hero Recruit rank, you'll get Lord Recruit rank for Dragon-Blooded Shoguns, which, you know, they're kind of useless, but yeah, having that Lord Recruit rank gives you a reason to recruit them. Construction cost, faction-wide, construction time, local region, diplomatic relations with humans, elves, casualty replenishment, upkeep. Yeah, his special skill line is fucking nuts when you really consider it. Yeah, his special skill line is absolutely ridiculous. So we want to look. Okay, so that will be available in one turn. And I'm going to want to set up both global and local recruitment with the army that I have in the swamps. And right now, I'm not looking to defeat Mazdamundi. I'm just looking. If I had a bunch of Jade Warrior crossbowmen, I would pick that fight. But Jade Warriors are not going to win against Saurus, and I know Mazdamundi is going to have a bunch of them. So I'm just going to tickle him, go in there, annoy him, get some money from sacking settlement, and just put Mazdamundi in an untenable position. Because Kebie is a mean bastard of a faction to actually be dealing with. I know that because I've played Mazdamundi's campaign multiple times. And the one hard thing about Mazdamundi's campaign is Kebie. And not because, like, oh, the Norskins are so powerful. No. Because simply due to the idea that, well, aren't you fanciful, little Skaven? Oh, well, I guess we get some free money over here in this campaign. Why not? Sometimes you gotta play ball.
Greetings.
Over here, I'm not gonna get... Like, you want the Confederation with the faction? Don't ally them. Because that alliance will actually count... Like, the way factions work in terms of Confederation, one, you want to have a good amount of diplomatic relations with them. That's the one thing. But the second thing that's actually quite important here is you don't want to military ally them, especially if you're powerful, which you certainly will be as Yuan Bo. You don't want to get the military alliance with them, because if you get a military alliance with a particular faction, what's going to happen? And there we go. Let's get more recruitment. Yes, that might leave me vulnerable over there, but we got Snitch lurking somewhere around here, so we just gotta be careful. Okay, let's see. If we put this army over here, we might just get lucky. That army can Autoresolve win against him. And we get this army of Skaven, just demolish them. Skaven slaves and clan rats, there's no way they're winning against this many Jade Warriors and crossbowmen. Like, I'm sorry, that's... Like, both of them, maybe. One at a time, not gonna happen. So much for the Skaven rats over here. And while, yes, this does mean this army won't reinforce me as much as I would, truth be told, I think this army has kind of served its purpose. Because, like, well... The Celestial Loyalist showing up over there has kind of ruined my plans, I'm not gonna lie. Has kind of ruined my plans. Sometimes, yeah, things, as I said, don't go the way you want them to during the course of a campaign. Sometimes they do go the way you want them to. We're gonna get a rebellion soon enough, and we're probably gonna have to put that down as a force. Okay, we just gotta pay attention. Grimgore, I got vision on Grimgore, so maybe I want to declare war on one of the factions he's at war with. Maybe I'd want to declare war on the Lamians, get some money from that process, get the peace treaty right after.
There is desperation.
Yep. And hell, if I really wanted to, I could declare war on the... I could declare war on... yeah, Celestial Loyalists, so Snitch either walks into my ambush or he gets obliterated by Yuan Ho It would be nice if he didn't get obliterated. That would certainly be great. Let's see what Mazdamundi does over here. Like, this is how you deal with the early game. It may depend on the situation. You could potentially get to, like in this particular case, the greenskin armies did not actually fall into my trap at the very beginning, so I actually had a difficult situation early on that cost me time. Was annoying, but all the same. So Mazdamundi force marches an army. This is one thing you can really use. Like, go, if you are attacking a faction that you know has armies in their territory, don't just take the territory. Sack their settlement, and then wait. They'll force march to defend their territory. You'll annihilate them. This is how I win as Grimgor against Zarnagrun. I don't fight free armies. Like, that's exactly what Zarnagrun has. Like Zarnagrun. Okay, so that army is not even full. Okay, we got the rebellion. Yep.
Cathay eternal, we shall prevail.
No problem. Should I force march this force, or should I... It's one of those decisions, right? You gotta make the decision at some point. And the decision is based on what you're... Okay, Snitch. That's a situation. Sure, let's go with that. This would actually be one of the most difficult battles over here, but... I mean, he does have some war grinders, but most of it is Skaven slaves. Like, this is what I mean. Like, you defeat Skaven by preventing them from concentrating their force against you. That's how you win versus Skaven. Trying anything else is just gonna get a lot of your guys killed and a lot of resources lost. That's the key with Skaven in a campaign. Nothing else. Trying anything else, just gonna end up blowing up in your face. So over here, I don't know where Mazdamundi's forces are. Yeah, he got the peace treaty with Kebie. Right, great. Yeah, sometimes the AI does that as well. So I'm just gonna sack the settlement again because I don't have the force to deal with him directly. Like if he sent, because he might have 2 full stacks marching over here. If he does send those 2 stacks over here in a fight, I will lose that fight. Like, I've dealt with those 2 stacks, but you need Jade Warrior Crossbowmen to win that particular fight. Okay, so just waiting for it. It might feel like I'm using cheesy tactics. Yeah, welcome to the meta of freaking Warhammer 1 and 2. Find a faction, lure their armies into positions where you can blow them up, win, quote unquote. That's the strategy that you would use during the course of a campaign in Warhammer 1 and 2. You wonder why I don't like the difficulty design of Warhammer 1 and 2? Yeah, that's the reason why. I'm surprised the Suns are still alive, but I guess we can go with that. We can work with that. In a campaign. So that's going to be over. That's going to be built soon enough. Not enough money for all that I want, but we can play around this.
There is balance. Agreed.
I mean, I do still have that army of Snitch I can use, and I can just destroy that Skaven force over here. Or I can't, so I'm just gonna set up an ambush. Where's the rebellion happening? Oh, right here. Constant rebellions. What can I say? It's not really a bad thing, though. You know, I don't like birds anyway. And maybe just one of the Jade Warriors. Not 2 of them. Fine, fair enough, right? I may have over-recruited over here. To be fair, the reason I recruited so much and the reason you want to go with full stacks almost all the time is like, it gives you possibilities that otherwise you wouldn't have in a campaign. Like over here, it might have, but you can certainly over-recruit and you might end up paying a cost for it, which is absolutely the situation that's happened over here. Might need to disband some armies. Like, things may not necessarily go down in your favor. I'm gonna sack that settlement again. Yeah, Warhammer 1, 2 tactics. They're still viable. They still work. It's just like they're cheesy as shit and not a great campaign experience. Okay, here I might pick that fight with Mazdamundi, or maybe not. I don't know where he is. Okay, there's some money to be made over here. And this is the great thing about caravans. Caravans will always, like... caravans just traveling to the objective you want them to reach will pay for themselves. That's one thing to mention here. Okay, so we will force march next to the settlement. Now, by the way, a lot of these battles, at least some of these battles, I would have strongly recommend you manually fight them if you're Kotrick and Felix. All right. Let's get Gotrek and Felix. Okay. So Snitch is being snitchy.
But I am sure I can articulate something.
Get rid of that. Put the Astromancer inside. I know I'm just leaving myself for the possibility of the Celestial Loyalists screwing me over, but you look at... Okay, let me point this out. All that I have achieved here, you look at these confederations, how close I am with these confederations. Yeah, I might even want to get that Celestial Loyalist Confederation. The Riverlands Confederation. Or I might want to wait. Like, it would obviously be better to wait for the Loyalists in this situation. Although, sometimes it is better to also wait for them to build up. But Confederation is a fickle bastard. At the best of times. So getting that advantage with respect to Confederation, yes, we are going to march them over here. This army is going to go deal with the rebellion. We got free over there, so we got some rush construction available, I think. Yep. We got harmonic restructuring available, sure, but we don't have any tier 3 settlement. So it's kind of pointless to make use of that. We could make use of the instant construction here, though. Okay. So we're just going to transfer these guys over right here to Yuan Bo. Pretty much all of them. He's going to fall back. Could have kept the barracks here, made it easier. Could recruit another lord to just recruit some Jade Warriors. So maybe do I want, let's say... Yep, that will probably be it. So if Mazdamundi does show up, which he might, if he shows up over here, maybe I do want to keep it. It will hurt my upkeep, but for this army, it will vastly increase it because it's perfect harmony. That's a thing, that's an annoying thing with what CA has done with like the change to, or the nerf to harmony. It's like, it just created a situation where it's, you know, it's pointless to have anything other than perfect harmony. Because like, yeah, you know, some yang, sure. Some yang for the sake, okay, rebellion time over there. I think the garrison can deal with. No, shit. That's a bigger problem than you might think. Okay. Because he's probably going to attack the settlement instantly. Though if it's just a lord, yeah, the garrison will probably deal with him. So Mazdamundi has moved. I don't know even what the hell he's doing. So Clanation is done. The Celestial Loyalists are not going to do a thing.
On behalf of my Celestial and...
No. You go deal with them. You're on your own, my friend. Yeah, we got a bit of a Skaven issue here. Could have recruited a lord. I do use Autoresolve mods. That's the reason I'd recommend them. Could have just spent the money on a lord. The lord would have certainly guaranteed an Autoresolve result over here. Some regiments renown, one regiment renown. Yeah. Regiments renown I always use as a reserve force for these kind of situations, right? Or, yeah, Autoresolve mods solve the fucking problem. Or I could fight the battle with the garrison, which is the least appealing option to me personally, but that's just where I stand on that subject. I know Snitch is around, but I'm of the belief that after defeating his armies, he's got nothing left. That's where I'm gonna stand on that. Can use instant construction over here to make things better. Get it to tier 3. Why not? Rush construction. Get the barracks. Start getting Jade Warrior crossbowmen with. Yeah, what am I gonna do over here? Well, let's move that army here. Snitch still has territory, and as you can see, we're just very, very, very close to Confederation with those. Working on Miao Ying Xiaoming, it's gonna take a while, but is getting closer and closer and closer. Once it's
On
done,
behalf of
you know, getting control of Cathay's capital, yeah, that is powerful.
Cathayans,
And now this army over here marches directly on Mazdamundi.
the Jade.
And look, the best thing you could do here would be to besiege the settlement. Because even if you don't have necessarily the force to win the battle directly here, and you may not, even if you don't necessarily have the force, though in this case, if I was to fight this battle manually, I'd probably win. But what I would do is, yeah, transfer these guys over just because I would not use Jade Warriors here. And it's like, yeah, just win. Take some damage, unimportant. Loot and sack it. Get rid. Actually, just convert this to Yang because it's just gonna be better. Power. That's how this campaign can be defined as. Raw unmitigated power. And maybe get another lord over here to just, yeah, maybe a Shungan. Assuming he's rank 12. Yes, he is. So let's get all of this stuff. Spell intensity is not too important right now. And get a unyielding, fervent questioner, okay, and start getting some Jade Warrior crossbowmen in this particular settlement. A level of power that's available in this campaign should not be underestimated. Oh, there's a slight Skaven force over there. If it was a full army, I would not try. Like, this is the thing, you gotta react to the situation you're given. If I knew Snitch had escaped that, I would not be force marching an army like this. It would have been suicidal. Against Snitch, absolutely. Like, that's not even a discussion. And yeah, the supply line operation there is the reason that's so useful, and it works so well. Caravan situation, yeah, a couple of turns. Cargo capacity. Always go for cargo capacity, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense, because it's like you may not benefit from it at that time, but you certainly will benefit from it on the second trip. Oh, ogres have taken some territory over here. I guess Kebie got wiped out. Oh, so I see what Mazdamundi was doing.
The dragon.
I understand.
Demand affirmation.
And yeah, I mean, after this point, like turn 15, turn 20, like they're still low here, there's still a bit of Snitch, but after this particular point, it's like just a free reign that you do have in your campaign. You need to maintain the crucial aspect with this. It's like maintaining a lot, like if you're not using an Autoresolve mod, and I know a lot of people are not happy with that idea, but if you're not using that, I would say it's very important, if you want to get these confederations that earlier, to fight these battles manually and minimize the casualties in the best way possible. That's because that will maintain your faction strength. That will make it easier to get these kind of confederation going. Like next turn, probably I'm gonna get the Confederation of Celestial Loyalists, most likely, or the turn after that. But I'm at the precipice of it. Once I get over it, confederate them, take the control. Yeah, deal with some rebellions. Public order penalty removal. This is a gray mod for a reason. By the way, people think rebellions are a difficulty. They're not. They're just free experience and money, really. Like, that's how I view it. And quest battle. This quest battle could be a bit annoying. And there we go, as expected. By the way, when a faction does this, the first thing you want to do, actually, get these alliances with them. Don't declare war on any faction they might be at war with, because that will obviously hurt you. But get those military alliances sorted out. As you can see, Kumlan over there. We got another force over here. Just disband that. Village is here. He might end up, he is at war with Miaoying, Miaoying, maybe Xiaoming soon enough. Important bit. Let's take the Fallen Gates. Would have been great to have a full proper second army here, but I'll work with what I get.
And execute. The dragon stands with you.
And I'm deliberately trying to spark a rebellion here. Oh, okay. Let's get those. We're in Ying, so I'm just gonna get rid of this one, get some control. With regards to the Marathi situation, let's just talk about this one for a second here. I'd say the best choice you have is stay the hell out of it. If you gotta ally someone, ally Ostankia allying Astanka is the best possible option.
The Empire.
Simply because...
Come then. Only
And yeah, more
Sigmar's
trade
god
agreements will open up more
Ulrich can
possibilities
judge
in your
it
campaign.
worthy or not.
Allying Astanka and beating up Morathi is the best choice if you want to get involved there. Whether or not you want to, that's a different discussion. But if you're going to ally anyone, do so with Astanka, because let me tell you, one of the last things you want to have to deal with in this campaign. Yeah, that's a lot of Skaven, but it's only 2 stacks, really. Selling a garrison, mostly Skaven size. You probably, like, one of the strategies you could use here is, like, just, yeah, withdraw from the battle. Like, do a lot of damage, withdraw from the battle, something along those lines, basically. Or just not rush, not have to rush snitch. Because, well, you've won. So, there's also that aspect. Okay, I'll get rid of that one. And now I'm setting myself for a confrontation with Lokir, but I'm not eager to spark that confrontation just yet. He's destroyed their armies, which is an unfortunate situation there. Because the best situation, obviously, when it comes to Confederation is confederate with their armies available for your own use. Yeah, maybe I did recruit too many units here. Maybe I did overextend myself. Maybe. Although, faction strength rank 1. Nope, 4, okay. Fair enough. Who the hell is 1? Probably Grimgor. Yeah, without even looking at it, I know it's Grimgor. Because of course it is going to be Grimgor. Who the hell else is it going to be? And after this point, like, yeah, just deal with Masmundi, take the jungles, and then do whatever the hell you want in this campaign. In Lustria, it's all yours for the taking. Go beat up Bretonia or ally Bretonia. Go beat up everyone else that you may want to do so. The one annoying thing, though, I would say about this campaign is gonna come down to this: the jungle is not exactly the most interesting terrain to have to navigate, just because it takes so long. But here's an interesting bit about Cathay. Cathay is actually one of the best factions to navigate the jungle. Unless you're talking about factions that have the underway, of course. But the reason Cathay is so good with navigating the jungle is going to boil down to this particular fact. Cathay may not have the movement speed that, you know, Skrulk or any Skaven Lord would have, or any Dwarf factions, or anyone that can use the underway, right? Like a Leaf and R, for instance. But Cathay has so many cheap armies, and they're cheap. Like, that's the thing. Like, with them, like, the armies themselves would not necessarily be the cheapest in the world, but because you can constantly get that minus 20% upkeep, and you have a 30% economic benefit with Harmony and the Compass in that particular direction, if you're willing to sacrifice the casualty replenishment, because of that situation in your campaign, you can maintain more armies than anyone else. Like, you're maintaining, like, consider the number of armies I'm talking about here. Like, let me put it bluntly, I'm outpacing AI factions with the number of armies I'm maintaining here. And this is not even Cathay's final form, if you will. Like, Cathay's final form is maintaining peasant armies that outnumber everyone. Like, seriously, everyone. It's not even amusing to think about. Okay, they're in a situation there. I could potentially get the military alliance with them and just maybe beat up Lokir. I don't know. It's one of those situations. But yeah. This is Yuan Bo's campaign. He is phenomenally strong, lots of powers, lots of possibilities. And look, the reason you want to rush Masmundi, if you let them take down Kebie, he's going to have 2 free stacks of Saras to throw against you. You might win that fight, you could win that fight, you would outnumber him even. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. Although you might overextend yourself. One of the mistakes I did in one campaign, well, mistake, quote unquote, because it ultimately paid off in a major way. But one of the mistakes I made during the course of a specific campaign is that I took this particular settlement, and then because I thought, oh, Masmundi's not going to bother me, right, instantly. Masmundi did have a bit of a problem with me taking that settlement and threw 2 full stacks against me. But that was not an ideal campaign situation. In those kind of campaign situations, you know, this is the difference between someone like me and Legends of Old War. Legend of Total War would fight those two armies and you'd call it a victory. To me, it's a defeat because I ended up having to fight two armies at the same time. Like, that's the key to winning campaigns. It's not about like, oh, look at you, how ridiculous you are for beating two armies. No, that's a failure from my perspective. The key to victory, how do you avoid fighting two armies? Essentially, that's how I view it. During the course of a campaign. Like, how do you avoid having to fight two armies at the same time? That is the key to campaign success, as I personally see it. Others may view it differently. I'm just going to switch the barracks around over here. Others may view it differently from that particular perspective. But from my personal perspective,
Imperial bureaucracy.
the best success you can have in a campaign is when you don't have to fight multiple stacks of troops at the same time. Not because you can't win. Like, anyone who's ever played any game on Legendary, from Shogun 2, understands that's part of the equation. But the way to dominate the campaign map is to avoid fighting two armies. The reason that's the key to victory is going to boil down to this equation specifically. If you can avoid... Alright, we might engineer a crackdown over here. In one of these settlements. Although, do we need to care about it? That's really the question, isn't it?
The dragon-blooded.
Do we need to care about the crackdown? Or do we want a potential rebellion over here? Dilemmas, dilemmas, dilemmas. In this kind of situation. Gonna get a bunch of control there. And you know what?
I greet you in the name.
Let's engineer an alliance and then declare promptly war on Lokir.
I am the Kraken.
Although, wait a moment before we do so, because we want to be right next to this particular city before we start that. But I guess I'm just gonna disband this army. It served its purpose. It served its purpose. It brought me in more money than I probably spent on it, or at least more money than the recruitment cost. Maybe not as much money as the upkeep cost, but it's done its job. And besides, I'm gonna get tier 3 units here soon enough, so yeah, just disbanding it temporarily. And with the military alliance there with the Jade Custodian, I declare war on Lokir. I let them get beat up. I set up an ambush for Lokir. I sent Gotrek and Felix to the north to defend the capital. Or I prepare to defend the capital and just leave them over here. Risks, right? Various risks to take. Anyway, that's all there is to it. You set up yourself in a dominant early game position. It's really the fight. Essentially, nothing else I did in this campaign mattered except this. I defeated Snitch early on. That is the only thing that actually had any kind of relevancy in this campaign. Everything else is fluff. Like, oh, you defeated Mazdamundi early on. Okay, I got Mazdamundi in a siege position. And anyone who's watched this channel, both my battle videos, I've done them. Yes, I do play battles. The reason I do a lot of these videos without playing battles is there's no depth to the battles. I'm sorry. Like, the best way to play a campaign is... Maybe that's one of the dilemmas that's broken about Total War that could be fixed in some way, just not necessarily the way some people suggest it should be fixed. But one of the things to understand about playing a campaign, you want to make individual battles irrelevant because you want to set up yourself in a dominant campaign position that you can take advantage of. That is the key to one of the keys to a campaign, if you will.
Ancient empire.
Yes? So?
Because when you make... the reason I say all of that is, like, if your legendary... Like, your legendary lord should be playing in a campaign situation... The way you should consider your legendary lord situation is that your legendary lord should never have to fight a battle that's unwinnable unless it's against an endgame crisis. If you're ever in a situation in the course of your campaign where you're fighting an unwinnable battle, you fucked up. Plain and simple, you screwed up. If you ever get in that position, that's a decent enough ratio. If you ever, and yeah, I know I recruited too many units there, fair enough, whatever. But if you're ever in this, in a position where you have to fight an unwinnable battle with your main army, you've screwed up. If you're fighting it with a secondary army, that's a different discussion, right? And you can, like, when I say unwinnable battles, like, usually there's ways to win those battles as well. It's not really crazy to do so. Yeah, I know, corner camping, cheesing, all that kind of stuff. We got really good at it thanks to Warhammer 1 and 2. Like, you play a Warhammer 1 and 2 campaign on Legendary, it's absurd. Hell, you play it on normal, it's absurd. Like I would use these tactics on normal in Warhammer 1 and 2 because it's that utterly busted of a game. And yeah, right now, I'm set up to dominate both Cathay and Lustria at the same time. That is the power of Yuan Bo. Or that is the power of Cathay. Make up your mind on that particular subject, however way you will. Costin, signing out. Stay tuned for more. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing to the channel and check out my PayPal and Patreon to help me out if you're interested in it.